This conference will now be recorded.
Good day, everyone watching this. It is March 10th, 2021. Fire Chief Ken Gilliam here, doing this video in hopes to get some information out to both council, my fire department personnel, as well as members of the public that I'm going to share this with. Here in the first couple weeks of March, tremendous uptick in questions and information about the new Station 4 project on the north side, as well as continued questions about some of the other station projects and some of the other neighborhoods. So if you'll stick with me, probably a little bit lengthier video here, but I'm going to walk through kind of a history of what's happened over the last 4 years specifically, and even years prior to that. But I'm going to share my screen here real quick. When I got to Crosse in 2017, one of the first priorities that Mayor Cabot gave me was the new formation of a fire station task force. That task force started shortly after I arrived, and we started to look at a lot of data that the fire department had on the need for a fifth station, as well as the needs of the facilities at the other 4 existing stations. After about a 6-month process, and this group was made up of members of council. Was council members Doug Happel and Jessica Olson, department heads Ron Tischer, myself and Jason Gilliam from Planning and Economic Development, as well as citizen members Adam Hatfield and Steve McConney. Great dialogue, tremendous amount of data that this group looked at, and they provided this report and resolution to council at the beginning of 2018. It was actually signed and went through council in February. Resolution 18-0009 for those that are interested in looking it up. They looked at quite a bit of data that came from our architectural group, Five Bugles Design, and a space summary need that they did in 2017. I'll show you that here in a little bit, and it'll be attached to the email that I'm sending out with this video. Some of the recommendations were that we should continue exploring options between joint fire and police at all of our locations. There's been a dialogue this past year about a bigger police and fire administration and municipal building, but one of the concepts early on is, could we build just a couple of extra office spaces and room for our police officers to work within a fire station, but out within their respective response districts, just to keep them closer to different parts of town, but still a place to get in and do interviews, do some computer work, and get out of a squad car occasionally. So supported that, as well as another concept that came up in great detail was the need for more community room meeting spaces. Mayor Cabot was a huge supporter of that, as well as the concept of potentially having a desk space where someone from City Hall that could do permitting and other type of receipts and things, maybe once a week, be out at a fire station on a set day every week, where people wouldn't have to drive to City Hall to do business. They could drive nearer to their local fire station and do some transactions there. So work in progress, but we've definitely embraced the community room slash training room for us as well. When those spaces are being need, police and fire, as well as all city departments, always need additional training space for classroom type work. We looked at additional information about multi-jurisdictional facilities, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, and some of the stuff going on with the Wisconsin Policy Forum and their regional fire and EMS sharing study. The council did make recommendations. One was that we replaced existing Station 4 and combine it with assets from Station number 2 on the north side. Very clear language was picked on demolishing the current fire stations 2 and 4 back in 2018, and that was to give historical people the opportunity to engage in dialogue if there was any desire, to do what's happening now in 2021. With that, I'll get into mapping here in a little bit and talk more about Station 4. Moving on down the list, there were also recommendations about a new station on the south side, as well as moving administrative offices out of Station 1, just to give us some time extension on that structure, get a number of bodies out of that facility so we weren't having to deal with as many gender equity issues and working space issues. Station 3, there was also recommendations about replacing it due to inefficient design, and I'll get into that in a little bit when I show you a map here in a few seconds. The space summary needs, this is a much longer document. I'll double back to this on Station 4 in a little bit, but I'll have it attached to the email. It's referenced in that station report. As we look at what's gone on over the past 10 years with our assessment of call volume, GIS mapping through our city IT department, and looking at where these stations go, and really the task force in 2017 looked at this. The mapping wanted to place the station right around George and West, which is perfect. We have one just a couple blocks away. We certainly looked at other facilities around that area, but the current site of Station 4 has always been an area of consideration. The station off of Monitor Street right about here, that wanted to drop down along La Crosse Street and West Avenue. And certainly down in that region, space is at a premium for something the size of a fire station. The mapping kind of drifted all over this intersection, give or take a few blocks, and we landed on a few opportunities. One was a public-private partnership on West Avenue, right around the Badger and Pine area. And a considerable amount of work went into dialogue with some developers there, as well as city planning and myself about building a fire station, but then building taxable property above it and around it. Unfortunately, the pandemic came along and really stalled some of those conversations. I think a lot of developers right now are looking at the economy and really trying to get a beat on what's happening with everything from construction costs going through the roof to just people's uncertainty and where we're at as a nation. At the same time, this past year, another opportunity emerged, Goosetown Park, sitting at Oakland and La Crosse Street. It's a little park of green space. And the Parks Department was considering eliminating that space and getting rid of it. It wasn't being heavily used and just another thing they had to maintain. Mayor Cabot quickly flagged it and asked me if this would work, and we looked at the site, and it does have a big enough footprint. It's a little tight, but it's got a big enough footprint that we could get a couple bay fire station on there and meet our needs. We met with UWL and talked about some of their plans on the vacant block south of that lot, and there's some good conversations going on there. Added bonus is that the city already owns that piece of property, so it comes at a cost of zero for us trying to get a station built there. So that dialogue will continue throughout 2021 and into the 2022 planning cycles for capital, and see what emerges on that dialogue. Jumping down to the bottom of the map, Station 5 kept drifting anywhere from Broadview or kind of around the area of Shopko down to this intersection at 33rd and Mormon Cooley. We did talk to the owners of the Shopko property there, and similar things. It didn't really click. We couldn't get a commitment to doing anything there. We looked at another facilities along Mormon Cooley, but we kept circling back to this lot right at the intersection of 33rd and Mormon Cooley. It was a vacant, grassy lot right at the intersection. We were able to design a plan that would allow us to fit a fire station there. And it's kind of nice because it allows us to, if there were rail issues like a rail disaster, it places a fire engine on the other side of the viaduct so we can get up kind of into these neighborhoods behind where there's some kind of major rail line problem where we could not get through to this area. So it's really, as we've kind of circled around to it, it's a very strategic location for us. It covers potential growth to the south with the Shelby and La Crosse boundary agreements, and provides some other partnership opportunities with the Shelby Fire Department. Coming up the map, Station 3, every modeling we did wanted to place the new fire station on the Kmart site. Good news was that was for sale. So in 2018, Planning Director Gilliam and I were meeting with the owners that ended up buying that piece of property. We've actually had a signed letter of intent to partner with them on that site. I know here in recent months there's been some changes there with U-Haul moving in and with kind of a renewed focus on the development opportunity of that property. We're still interested in partnering with that group if we can make something work where it's economically beneficial to both the city and the owners of that property. At the same time, I've got to be responsible, and we've got our current Fire Station 3 here right on Mosey across from Central High School. We did a reassessment of that structure and really said, what would a 30-year remodel, what would buy us significant time? And working with our architectural group, it essentially doubles the square footage, and it's a total gut of the station. But there was enough value there that we thought we could, probably for about half the price of a new station, we could remodel that on a 30 to 40-year design where it would meet all of the other critical needs and the goals that the task force laid out for us for getting solved. So we've proceeded with plans there. The well house on the north side of the fire station is abandoned, and the fire department grabbed a hold of that property so that it didn't slip through our fingers, as well as the house to the south of the station became available, and we did purchase that property. It would allow our 2 apparatus bays to expand further south of the current station and give us the room we need at that station to do some of the interior stuff. So there's some very conceptual plans designed there, but we've been really focused on the more northern stations right now and kind of waiting to see how opportunities unfold with the Kmart site. So more to follow on that. Station 1 at 5th and Market, and this is where some of the confusion comes in when we start talking about police and fire and a lot of the movements. Station 1 on Market Street on a 5-station model wants to drift down to kind of the intersection of 3rd, 4th, and South, all in here just south of Jackson Street.
It's just a few blocks either direction. And you can kind of see the modeling's wanting to get down and cover some of these response gaps down here along South Avenue, but it's also being pulled north by call volume and vertical development and industrial space in downtown. Optimally, I think, if we could wave a magic wand and create some sort of island right here at that intersection of South 3rd and 4th, that'd be the perfect location, but that doesn't exist. So we're certainly looking at partnership opportunities here. And one of the other things that has come up over the past couple of years is the police department has also done space assessment needs. They're bursting at the seams on their current facilities at City Hall, and I won't speak for them, but a lot of their saga with a lot of the related issues is a very similar and parallel path with the fire department right now. Chief Kudra unfortunately shared Chief Tischer's commitment to looking at partnership opportunities in a public safety complex type of situation. And some dialogue started last year about potentially expanding out around the area of 5th and Market and building a larger police and fire station. That admittedly is a very large project, and with the pandemic and a lot of the social unrest and everything that 2020 brought us, Chief Kudran and I have not had a lot of time to really dig deep into that dialogue. There were ideas ranging from a police and fire annex in this area to a remodeling and addition onto City Hall, or other ideas that have come up. So I think that'll take a few years to develop as well. And Station 1, we really in 21 secured funding to do a kind of crude remodel there. We're going to take some single bathrooms and locker rooms and split them into individual units to take care of the gender equity needs of our male and female firefighters working together, as well as some bunk room remodeling. I think it's important to note as we look at overcrowding of fire stations with the pandemic and looking at social distancing, our medical director, Dr. Chris Eberlein, referred to our bunk rooms as micro cruise ships. And one of the things early on we had to do was kind of bunk up some of our bunk rooms and sleeping quarters in the fire stations. So essentially what happened at Station 1 is we moved beds into my office, my assistant chief of operations office. My support staff was displaced and moved out of the building. And I have not been in my office functionally since about April of 2020. I've been living out of my backpack in what used to be a storage room at City Hall. So as far as my motivation for getting some spaces fixed, I'm in the mix with everybody on it, and we're trying to make some headway on this. Moving those bunk rooms back together right now doesn't work because we're still trying to socially distance. We're still trying to keep our members separated from each other as best as possible, despite having to get on rigs and work together and the hassles of masks and everything that everybody's dealing with. So in any case, more to come on Station 1. In 2021, though, we are doing remodels to take care of the bathrooms and some privacy issues in the bunk rooms. That brings us up to Station number 4. And I'll flip back to the space needs summary. So the Historic Preservation Commission and some other groups of people in town have, in about late fall, October, November timeframe of 2020, started to raise concerns about removing the old Station 4. And I think timing wise, there was a lot going on in 2020. We were running an emergency operations center and a unified incident command team within the city. And I think a lot of people were focused on very large picture issues. Meanwhile, while I was overloaded with a lot of that, we were still making progress. In about February of 2020, we were going to start making offers on property around Station 4. We had exhausted all of the other areas around that station, quite a few discussions on opportunities, but we just couldn't get anything as economical as what we could do with the footprint that we already owned. So as we started to move in February, the pandemic really kicked into high gear in March. And it just kind of timed out. And we actually doubled back to a couple of industrial properties up there that are struggling to see if we could get a better price for the city and work on some things. Unfortunately, those discussions came and went, and we really could not come to an agreeable price. And we came right back to Station 4 where we started. So probably around the August, September timeframe, we did start making offers out to those owners who we had actually been talking to since the year prior. And working through that. As those properties were acquired, there's been social media kind of smears out there that there's an eminent domain thing happening and that tenants are being forced out onto the street to become homeless. Just so everyone's aware and for the record, we paid a very fair market value for those structures. And on top of that, in the purchase agreements, in efforts to keep unnecessary things from just being disposed of in landfills, the owners of those houses that got full value for those structures were actually able to come back after tenants and owner-occupieds were evacuated and get out things like appliances and wood trim and anything that they found value or that they could reuse in other facilities. As those owners are getting done with that kind of initial phase of that, we're also partnering with Habitat for Humanity to come into these older structures, to include the old Fire Station 4, to see what can be salvaged so that we're not landfilling, critical components that could be used actually to restore another building in the city of La Crosse in a similar strategy. So we're doing everything we can to be economical and good stewards of the environment and really meeting council priorities there. Specific to the desires that have emerged here in the last 3-4 months about saving the old Station 4, it was certainly a beautiful building built in 1940. We've just flat out outgrown it. And I wanted to share another picture here real quick. As you go back to 1940, and really the vehicles that station was designed for were kind of 1920 and 1930 vehicles. We were emerging out of a horse-drawn steamer era, and it was vehicles like this. You could actually fit 2 fire trucks into the single bay now of Station 4. Very, open spoke hubs and firefighters hanging off the rigs, and kind of what a lot of us picture of that Norman Rockwell era of fire engines. As we hop up to 1940, and you guys can look these up on Google, it's my heavy research engine here, but as you look at 1940s, again, a little bit larger chassis, but still small, very small 2-person cabs, and really some kind of cool configurations. Jumping up to the 60s, truck chassis started to change, and DOT involvement and making things safer, getting firefighters inside of enclosed cabs so they weren't hanging off of tailboards and freezing in the winter, and firefighters dying, falling off the exteriors of fire rigs. To get to where we're at now in 2021, we've got these massive rigs that just simply do not fit in our stations. As you look at this station in the lower right-hand corner, this is Station 1 at 5th and Market. This ladder truck clears that door by a matter of an inch or two. We have to make sure there's no ice or snow on the pad, otherwise we do damage to the truck. As you look in the top left corner, you'll see that these cabs on the rigs actually lift all the way up into the air so that we can do maintenance on these vehicles. We cannot lift these cabs up inside of the facility, so our firefighters and our mechanical staff actually have to pull the rigs outside in inclement weather, sometimes snow, rain, whatever, and work on these rigs outside. And it's a very poor situation from a safety and a morale perspective. You can scroll down through these and see numerous pictures where we're seeing overcrowding and really kind of what's going on with the station. No room to train around the rigs, no room around the rigs to pull equipment off and do maintenance. And a modern station design that I'm going to show you here in a few minutes really expands those bays both upwards so that you got room to work on these rigs, as well as outwards so that we've got training and maintenance space built around them. I'll close this down. So back to Station 4. Station 4, the main floor footprint is about 5,600 square feet. I think the total building with the basement and the upstairs is about 7,800 square feet. It's tiny. It's got an apparatus bay, which is more than half of the first floor. And then there's like a living room, kitchen, 1 bunk room, and an officer's dorm, and a very tiny bathroom here. As you move up to the second floor, there is 1 dorm room and 1 bathroom. We have 4 firefighters that work in this station. I referenced earlier that we'll be moving resources up and actually having 2 companies work out of this building. There is not room for 6 people to work in this building. There's not room really for 4 people to work in there with male and females working together in any sense of privacy and a risk management perspective for the department and for the city. The space needs summary lists out a lot of other great details on all of the stations. I would encourage you to look through it. And these are 2017 numbers. The other piece is there are cost estimates in 2017 of replacing Station 1 as a single bay fire station. I think it was $4.5 million. And as I was providing prices to the task force and council in 2017 and early 18, it was a $5.5 million station. As we entered 19, prices with building construction were going up, and those numbers changed to $6.5 million. So that the longer we delay these projects, the more that inflation and economy drives just a larger ticket. I know that it's all connected and it's hard because there's a lot of priorities in the city, but time is really of the essence on a lot of these projects when you're looking at a 50 to 80 year time span. Another thing we looked at with all the stations is I did have dialogue with mayor and council members about, do we want to build 20-year buildings, or do we want to do like the ancestors of La Crosse did it and build, 70 to 80-year buildings. We could do a 20-year building out of tilt slab or metal walls for probably half as much. There's some downsides with that, and then in 20 years, the community's having the same dialogue. Very nearly unanimously with every council person that I did talk to about it, they were interested in really kind of legacy buildings and community anchors. These are safety sites for people to go to in the event of emergencies, and really an investment in a neighborhood that hopefully drives other investments with people looking to see that the city's making a statement here with some beautiful buildings that we're going to build. So much awaited, I'm going to jump up to Station 4. And I'll see if I can get my pictures to refresh here. I'll have to zoom in and out a little bit. So Station 4 is actually going to be housing 2 fire companies, but we also looked at the other dialogues that we were having. We're moving the Northside Police Station off St. Andrew Street in with it, and that's going to put that other piece of property on to back onto the tax roster for some other development opportunities there. We've also sold off the Creekside lots, so we created the revenue from those 3 lots down south. So as we've purchased properties, we've also been trying to put some back and make this make sense for everyone. Specific to Station 4, we got 2 fire companies moving in there, and I'll zoom in on this apparatus floor here a little bit. This apparatus floor will have, if all goes well, room for a ladder truck, a rescue rig, also our backup engine and water tender. These crews dual staff our dive rescue and water rescue units. So there's a pickup truck and 2 boats stored in this facility. There's a dive team unit. As well, we were fortunate enough to work several grant angles, and we replaced our older than 20-year-old smokehouse that we've always called it with a new $130,000 fire education trailer that'll be arriving here later this year. That's a 27-foot trailer full of computers that we had to get indoors. So that fire prevention trailer will go into this new station if all goes well, as well as a support vehicle to pull it. As we look at modern station design, they're really built like a hazardous material scene. As firefighters come back with the byproducts of a fire or the aftermath of a medical emergency with blood and body fluids, it's about keeping those contaminants outside of the working spaces of the station. So as we built our station, and I'm gonna zoom in another notch here, these spaces are all kind of color coded differently, but there are decontamination areas, and there's a legend on this map, so you can look at this. I know I'm kind of showing it to you on the fly in a video, but there's a place to come in and start stripping out of equipment, start washing and decontaminating everything from SCBAs to turnout gear, and then moving back into a decontamination corridor where there are independent bathroom shower rooms where people can get in, take steam showers, get the carcinogens off of their bodies, and then have a change of clothing staged in these rooms. And really, it's protecting our greatest resource, and that's our firefighters. Cancer firefighter statistics and a lot of the bloodborne pathogen statistics, they're scary. They're a very significant risk to the city, and the new design of these facilities will increase our chances that we're protecting our people and ultimately protecting the community. There is a front watch day room here, just kind of an office space, and we've also doubled in and put in some training capacity for the on-duty crews. And then these are individual dorm rooms. We need 6 dorm rooms, and acknowledging that we're building an 80-year building, things change, right? They changed from 1940s till now. As we look at staffing and other things, and as we look at potentially a problem at a station where we would need to relocate staff, we're actually going to build 8 bunk rooms in the station. It's a best practice. I fully support it, and it gives us room for growth in the future if things ever change or if there's a need for things. So a couple of extra bunk room spaces, but independent bunk rooms, and these are pretty simple. It's lockers, a bed, and a small desk. A lot of our firefighters do homework and online education, and just a place to get some quiet time and do what you need to do. This top corner is just kitchen and day room space with kind of a divider wall, kind of a quiet rest and rehab area here. And then certainly the anchor of any fire station is its kitchen. And I'm trying to skip some of those meetings because they're getting into cabinetry and things now. And it's kind of fun. As we move down to the southern end of the building, we've got a gym here. Physical fitness is a top priority for La Crosse Fire Department. As we look at our work comp lost time rates and things, keeping our industrial athletes in the best shape as possible is one of our top priorities in our strategic plan. So a gym as well as a training tower on the back. Typically, we have to build a hose tower to raise 50-foot sections of hose up in the air to get them drained and dried and back in service. And by investing in building a stairwell around this hose tower that would be there anyway, the cost is relatively negligible, but it allows us to build in training capacity, everything from rappelling off of the roof to doing standpipe connections and simulating a high-rise fire attack in a stairwell, to some other really cool stuff that our training division's working on with the design team. So fitness room, and that fitness room also bleeds into this training tower, and you can kind of see the proximity of that. Right next to it, this big square here, number 11, that is a community room / training room. It's going to have seating capacity for about 40 people with tables and chairs. Obviously, you know, TV screens and audio visual support, a small kitchenette in the back. And this will be available to police and fire and really anybody in the city that needs meeting space to do training, to do community group meetings. I'm really optimistic that the Northside Community Group might come over and do one of the first meetings that we host in here and kind of help us cut the ribbon on this thing. Out in this lobby area, it kind of splits, and this isn't added on. This is some strategy that we're trying to incorporate. These 3 yellow boxes here to the right of the front door, these are actually the merged police department spaces. So we've picked up their community room space and then office and soft interview room and a private mental health room, just to give them some dedicated space to meet their needs for officers on the north side to stop in at it and do the business that they're doing at their current north side policing station. This lower right-hand corner is a stab, and I'm hoping as the bids come in and we get projections here in the next few weeks on the true cost with the increase in building materials and everything, we've added on several office spaces. We're going to be moving our fire investigators and fire inspectors, 2 of those captains, up to this facility. They're currently in windowless rooms in the basement of Station 1. We're going to move our public educator position into this building, as well as a few of the chief officers, again, to take some heat off of Station 1 on the facilities, as well as to give us better meeting spaces and a more consistent flow of information for that staff that has to work together. We'll see if the budget that I was given in capital has enough to do that. Again, where we were asking for money last year, some got trimmed off at the last minute, and I'm squeezing the rock as hard as I can to find some more money, and I'll know more in a few weeks. So we'll be having that dialogue with council. If all else fails, this bottom corner may have to be chopped off, and we may have to look to a future new station opportunity to take care of some of these critical needs. Likewise, with the administration offices here and this community room, we've added on a little bit of lobby space here. Due to the pandemic, we had to pull that old historic steamer engine out of City Hall. That's what that rectangular box is here in the middle of this lobby. And we've got tons of just historical treasures sitting in attics and in dry storage that's not on display for the public. And so there's discussions about some great lining of the walls here with pictures and some cases to hold some of these artifacts from, the last 50 and 100 years and get some of this on display. There have been discussions with the school district about use here. We had hoped to partner with them and get a pre-K center actually added into this building, but again, the economy did not work in our favor right now, and we just couldn't pull it together. But they're certainly interested in some community garden space outside, and really with our fire education trailer that's coming new this year being parked here, our public educator position here, and several people that are pretty heavily involved in that community training. Right across kitty corner from a beautiful elementary school, I think you can see there's a cool synergy there for us working with the school district. This will probably become our new fire station for tours and really setting the benchmark for La Crosse Fire moving into the next 50 years and certainly the next 5 to 10 years of building some new facilities. With that, site design. Let me zoom back out here. All right. So our site design, I've got some funky things going on with coloring here, so the colors may shift. This is Gillette Street to the north. This is Liberty to the left and Charles to the right. You can see our station, and I apologize, this graphics are still coming up. I'll probably roll back this in a minute. As the station outlays, you can see that we've had to build in parking. To our new neighbors to the south, we've essentially split this block in half. We are going to be doing everything we can. We've provided some green space on the right here with their apparatus pads in the back and drive-through apparatus bays. We're certainly going to be investing in privacy fencing and creating some buffer here as we wrap this alley from an old constant alley through this block to an L-shaped alley to the left out to Liberty. And we'll be meeting with both of these property owners to make sure we're working with them in good faith to fit all of their needs. A nice added thing, and while the station is getting busier with drive-through bays, you won't hear backup alarms hardly ever. Rigs will approach in off of Liberty, pull in and drive straight through, and then drive out the front. So a lot of the loud reversed beeping alarms that the neighbors have heard in years past, they probably won't hear those too much more anymore. So that's a good thing. As well as backing in off the street is certainly always a risky maneuver, especially when you consider the elementary school traffic of pedestrians and everything walking by the station. So we're designing it safe and we're designing it smart. So there'll be more coming out on these plans, a much deeper dive architecturally. The old fire station 4, and unfortunately my mapping is not working here, but it literally sits right about here under the apparatus apron and the front apparatus pads. One of the things we're challenged with while building the structure is keeping the old station open as long as possible. We're still working out timelines of what that's going to look like, but probably we'll be working on, as the bids come in April through June and we start to break ground and things start to proceed, if council ultimately supports this plan, we'll probably start building over here on the right and doing what we need to do. And then as we work towards the apparatus bays, eventually the old station 4 is planned currently to come down. And then these apparatus bays will get built, apparatus pads will get laid, and we'll get the vehicles back into the station as soon as possible. We'll probably have a 3 to 4 month gap this fall where we're going to be working our fire engine, at least engine 4, out of some other remote location, kind of like we were doing working with the high schools and La Crosse Center during the initial phases of the pandemic when we were working out of remote facilities to separate our personnel. So one other picture on this, and this is the final. A lot of people are asking what it's going to look like, and hopefully my graphics will pull together here. There we go. This is the proposed new fire station 4. This is the front. The third one down is the front off of Gillette Street. It's a 4-bay fire station. Our architectural group has tried to design in some of the arches and the brickwork and things that are familiar with the old station 4 on this block. And while it's certainly a much larger facility, we're certainly trying to make it fit into this neighborhood as best as we possibly can. Glass doors is a goal so that we can have some low lighting in the evening and really kind of do some cool things lighting up the structure as a gem of the north side. The second from the top is the main entrance off of Charles Street. And you kind of see the layout with the hose tower. Additionally, this first picture up here is just a different angle. Front doors of the admin wing on the left, police offices on the right, and the fire station working quarters here, hose tower in the back. The very final picture at the bottom is just the rear side of the station. You can see that training tower, and we're building in some training pad capacity and doing what we can. Architects have looked at the roofs of the couple of sloped roofs and kind of the hipped roofs and trying to match some of the architecture of the original station and the houses around it. And we've got a great team working on this. So in coming weeks, as this schematic design phase gets completed, we'll be getting some true cost estimations on can we get this done. Myself and the lead architect and the project manager, we feel we're very close. It's just the dynamics that we can't control on the price of steel going up 10% in the last 6 months. And there'll be some discussions with council coming up in coming months. So to the Historic Preservation Commission, I hope this helps identify some timelines of how we got to where we're at. From 2018 on, I've been giving regular updates to the mayor, working with the planning department, and every step of the way we've been trying to be transparent with this facility as best we can. I know 2020 was a distracting year for us all, and I'm certain as our money got solidified to get the final steps of the money in place for 2021, the fire chief suddenly engaging and making things happen probably caught people off guard. So for that, I guess it is what it is. I won't apologize, but we are trying to get back to business of getting the new Station 4 built on the north side and then moving on to other priorities of the other stations. So with that, I'm going to shut off my video screen here. The video is nearly done. What I will say is if anybody, oops, wrong one, excuse me. There we go. If anybody has any follow-up questions, my email is widely known. If you call my office number, it also lists my cell phone. I have not returned a call about fire stations. So anybody that wants to talk to me about fire stations and opportunities, concerns, or questions, feel free to call me direct. Appreciate that. There's a lot of moving pieces, but I assure you I will get back to you in a timely manner. The Heritage Preservation Commission has meetings in March and April. where they're going to be discussing potentially historically designating the old station. In my opinion, while that's a noble thought, it's really going to derail some of these current plans. And we could certainly reduce scope here. We could build a smaller fire station and eliminate some of the other community resources on this property and move on to other opportunities. And if that's the will ultimately of the citizens and the public, I'm a public servant and I'll take work direction as directed. I'm hopeful that people having the knowledge now of where we're at can kind of get their heads around this over the next couple months. And I'm really looking forward to a great ribbon cutting ceremony and getting this station built over the course of 21 and having everything done probably by the spring of 2022. So with that, everyone stay safe and thanks for watching it. Bye-bye.